tyranny. It's as American as beer and baseball. This is the America Beer, Baseball, Tyranny podcast with your hosts, Joshua Sopko and Aaron Bloomer. Hey, Josh.
What's up, Aaron?
How are you?
I'm doing well.
We got some new things going on over here.
Lots of new things.
Lots of new things.
Toys, gadgets, furniture.
So yeah, we got a new background.
Which is not big enough, but it works.
It works for today. We'll figure it out later.
And this background took forever to get here.
Oh my gosh, 2 months or something stupid? Or
it was ridiculous. Yeah, it wasn't 2 months, but it was a month. I mean, close. It was not slow or fast. I mean,
yeah. And then we got a little new gadget here that you guys can kind of see, but it kind of makes us look legit.
It's fantastic.
It's real fancy. It's definitely fancier than we are. But
it works. I like it.
Hopefully we sound a little better. Hopefully, if you noticed our intro, we just play it right from here and move on, and less time on our end and the back end. And yeah. And then we got this table.
And this table is bomb. And you made it.
Yeah, I made it. I had this part, if you can kind of see it. I don't know if you can, but it's like beer
boxes, right?
Yeah, and I like Mod Podged over it. And then I just added out these sides. So hopefully, if we can ever leave our houses, we can have guests. And so we could have three people here, which is the whole plan. Also, this new gadget, though, allows us to call people or Skype people a lot easier. So that's going to open it up for guests and things like that, too. So if you guys are bored with just us bums, don't sweat it. There'll be some guests here coming up pretty soon. So we're wearing headphones so we can actually hear each other. And
hopefully manage our microphone levels a little bit better, too.
Yeah.
All things podcast stuff.
Josh, I'm thirsty.
Yes, we'll see what I picked up today.
What is it?
It is called the Lucky Bucket Brewing Company. I've never heard of it or had it. And this particular flavor is the Jug Thumper Brown Ale.
La Vista, Nebraska.
So it's not too far.
So I knew it was in Nebraska.
Established in 2008. A favorite of any bluegrass-loving jug player. I don't know, those guys that... It kind of matches our intro. Those could be jug players on that intro.
You know why these are colored different? Because they put the sticker on. So they're actually like clear. So they just put a yellow stick on yours and there's a blue sticker.
Yeah, I don't like that. Oops. Makes a good beer opening sound, so we'll try it. All right.
Sweet. Well,
on the agenda today, something less
less government focused.
Yeah, less. I mean, it's a little political, but
yeah. So what is it?
Essentialism. The conversation that's going around about being essential.
So are people essential?
And is their careers essential?
Okay, I think there's multiple factions of this. And it's relevant because obviously with the COVID stuff, people are being ordered in certain areas to stay home, except for essential people.
Yeah.
Those people however, are allowed to go wherever they really want, I guess.
I mean, if it's essential, they can do whatever they want, right? So this arbitrary classification that a couple people in a room came up with and said, these people are essential and everybody else has to be locked in their homes. I have a serious problem with it.
Okay, why?
I see this conversation happening and it never settled with me well. And I kind of figured out why a little bit, but mostly it revolves around this idea that suddenly large swaths of people are just deemed unimportant to society and told to stay home. Mm-hmm. And I think you're just like, that's exactly right.
Okay, yeah.
And I have such a problem with that because it takes their livelihood out from underneath them that they have zero control over. So like we're talking about...
That's not true.
They're talking about, you're just not important enough to be viable to society.
Yeah.
I can't consciously do that. Like,
you made a conscious decision for the job that you took.
yeah, because it's something that I care about and is important to me and means something to me, and the people that buy my products or pay me to do that job also find value and importance in it.
Yeah. And
to have someone else arbitrarily decide that that's not important anymore is wrong.
So I think,
those people I'm talking about are the government officials that have just arbitrarily went through a list and say, what do we need to physically survive? And started just cutting things out based on those necessities that they deemed.
But this is only a discussion in a world where there's a pandemic, right? I mean, for the most part, outside of and we'll get into it, I think, a little bit later because it's very relevant and related, is what we talked about. Somebody posted on Facebook.
Yeah. I want to get into that question specifically.
Yeah, but I think that's a little different. Let's start off talking about in the realm of a pandemic. Okay, so it's been deemed by the powers that be that to not spread this disease, it's best to social distance / stay home. So, however, everyone can't stay home because we need nurses. We need doctors. I mean, like, we need a certain people, but then, so here's where I think we both agree is, well, where do you draw the line?
Right. And that's where I end up with a huge problem with it, is where do you draw the line and what makes something non-essential?
Well, I think it can be pretty easy.
Explain.
Do I need your service to live?
And if yes, then so I provide a service that helps you to live. I provide, I'm a meat packer. So I make meat or package meat for you to buy so that you can survive. So food. Does the people that supply my needs, are they essential?
What's that?
So the people that make boots, my boots that I need, or the gloves that I need, or the glasses that I wear, or the teeth crowns that I have, or the haircut that I need in order to just maintain, safety protocol. I can't have too long of hair or something like that, or, beard trimming, or the fact that in order for me to do my job effectively, I have stress relievers like going to the gym. Some of those things start to build and build and build out to the rest of society.
They're not essential.
What?
They're just not. I mean, knowing that a pandemic is, in the terms of life, a short-term event.
Short-term of 12 to 18 months? Or, we have no defining realm of what the end of the pandemic means.
Right, but no one's going out there saying it's going to take 12 to 18 months.
Oh, absolutely they are.
All the crazy fucks are.
And Fauci.
Wow.
he's the leader of it all, right? Like, he's the one making all his recommendations. The Spanish flu took like 4.5 years to eventually filter out.
And maybe we see that kind of swells where it goes down and comes back up again. And
sure, and there was third and fourth waves of even the Spanish flu as it mutated and went through. So
if you need special boots for your job, you probably have some boots. So you might need to make those boots last a little bit longer. If you need special glasses, same thing. Like, the people that make those are not essential. And assuming, and here's, it kind of goes back to our price gouging episode a little bit too, right? It's like, if you need that, well, there's limited supply now, so it's going to cost more. Because they're not making them anymore. I mean, there will have to be concessions. I mean, you'll have to maybe use some things a little bit longer, or you know what, maybe you don't get your favorite cut of meat because we're in a global pandemic. Maybe what you get is ground beef, and because you don't need your top sirloin cut. You don't need this special. I mean, talking meat packing specifically, right? Yeah. You need in a true global pandemic. And when we're looking to live, like survive, I think it's okay to ask people or to live on your kind of bare bones so we can get through this.
It is okay to ask people to do that. It is not okay to forcefully mandate them through rule of law.
Listen to that podcast I just told you
to force
because there's
people.
lawyers that say different. IJ lawyers who say different.
Right. And I get that it might be within the realm of the scope of their power. Like I get that that's in their scope, but I don't think it's moral or ethical or right by any means. And
it's absolutely moral and ethical if it is to slow the spread of a pandemic that it doesn't kill half of the country.
Let's unsubstantiated claims, but let's talk about the social fabric that this conversation causes too. So like the Facebook posts that we saw, okay,
we're going to Facebook posts. No, I think I want to
because it goes deeper than just because I understand the logistics of you need to make your boots last longer because you don't need boots. You don't need to go golfing in order for you to do your job effectively.
Sure.
Even though I disagree with the fundamental of what that means, I understand the logistics of what you're saying.
So I'm right.
I understand the logistics. I can see where you're coming from. But we get into the more social fabric of the damage that it causes on a wider scale than just logistically surviving for a couple of months.
Okay, but
with or without something.
But in the context of a pandemic,
no.
Yes.
Or the wrong button.
Stop it.
Wrong. They're wrong.
Correct. In the I think so. Okay. So here's where we're trying to get at, because I think people are like, what the heck are they talking about? So there was a Facebook post where someone asked their students she was a teacher,
sophomores, I think too.
Okay, asked them to, in a speech class or something, rank the specific professions.
Yep, rank these professions
in importance to society.
Yep,
or something like that. And so I'm going to bring the post up just so we can see it and get the exact ones and get but here's the thing. When we're talking about just everyday, normal, day-to-day, what's your importance to society, it's a different conversation than if we're in a global pandemic.
Is it though?
Yeah.
I mean, now we've allowed government to make the differentiation of what is a pandemic? Are we in a pandemic? And these are the definitions, and these are how we're going to combat it. We're not allowing society to make those claims and allowing society to act appropriately as society wants or needs or validates. And that's kind of where I come into the issue. Is you have government saying, well, we're in a pandemic, and this is going to be our response, regardless of what you say and how you think that you need to respond to it.
I think the issue is, and they also talked about it in that podcast episode, is, first of all, the government, and we're talking local government. There's obviously a differentiator. They don't believe that the federal government has any right to do that.
I don't think the federal, well, at least Trump, I think has clarified too that he doesn't have those kinds of rights. But
sure.
on a state level, yeah. I mean,
so they're saying that they say that it's basically, it is okay to make those distinctions.
It's within their power.
Because we've given them the power, essentially, is what they've said.
Yeah, more
the government technically does, or the governor doesn't technically have that power, but there are these old laws that have given the governor those powers.
Right, emergency clauses and
exactly.
Crap like that. Yeah, I'm not saying that they don't have the right to enact such measures. I'm saying that it's not correct or moral or ethical to forcefully impose such activities as essential and non-essential classifications. I don't even think that it's reasonable that they can or should.
What's the morality issue?
Okay, so can we talk about the Facebook post? Did you find it? Or okay?
Yep. I do a speech class. I do a speech in my class where the kids have to rank these professions in order of importance based on their contributions to society from least to greatest and explain why. Then she's so here are the professions in no particular order: politician, teacher, scientist, farmer, artist, preacher.
And the comments, so okay.
I thought the comments were funny because half of them were just like, oh yeah, I'll take a stab at it. And then the other half were like, whoa, I don't know about that. I don't know if we should do that.
I was the second dissenter of that post. There was one other person prior to me that commented and said, this is wrong. You shouldn't do this. And I was the second one who commented and said, this is wrong and here's why. Mm-hmm. There is a deep moral societal fabric going on here with this conversation that I think is far greater than government should or shouldn't. And this is kind of what hopefully I can come across because it really gets down to like I get kind of angry about just the even mere idea. So obviously a farmer is going to rank among the top. He or she provides the food mm-hmm. for everybody to eat, right? Right. But there again, the farmer requires things. The farmer requires shoes. The farmer requires eyeglasses and equipment and machinery and fuel. And then those people require things. At some point, those people require an education. So then the teacher falls in there somewhere pretty high up. At what point are we just making these arbitrary decisions based on really not much criteria that means anything? If you think about World War II, or post-World War II or whatever, it was pre-World War II, when Einstein came up with the theory of relativity. Like,
all right, I'm awake.
So, Einstein was really famous for doing this. He was a violinist. He was a musician, an artist, right? He learned a craft, and he was really good at it, too. He used his music as a tool in order to solve problems. Whenever he would get stuck on a really tough problem, some of it was not even just figuring out the math, but just conceptualizing the idea so that you could try and prove it mathematically. He would be in his studio playing the violin for hours. I mean, just hours upon hours upon hours. And sometimes he'd do this for days on end because it helped him clear his head to think of solutions to the problem.
What does that have to do with anything?
The artist in this list is going to be dead last on just about everybody's list. The artist is unimportant.
Correct. No one would classify Einstein or whoever you were talking about, because I kind of dozed off, as an artist. They would identify him as a scientist.
But he used art to fuel science.
Doesn't matter.
Without art, you can't have science.
Nobody's saying we can't have art.
This post is saying, because
no, it's not.
If you go outside the construct of a pandemic, which is what she's doing, she said she's been doing this post for years,
right? Which is, I mean, we can like, let's just put that out there. I think we can both agree. I don't think that
it's a strange conversation to have outside of a pandemic.
I think it is a strange conversation to have in a school setting, in a speech class. I think maybe in a civics class or something along the lines. I don't know. I think it's weird. I kind of see, because she's trying to do critical thinking and things. I just think there are maybe other ways to get those juices flowing in a critical thinking type of way in a sophomore or whatever it is. But either way.
Which brings up more to that. But
anyway, she picked 6 professions out of virtually an unlimited number of professions and said, which one of these, or which of these 6, which contribute more to society? She's not saying the artist can't exist.
But she is saying that the artist does not contribute enough compared to everybody else.
Correct.
But I contend that without the artist, the scientist cannot work effectively. Okay, without the scientist, we can't have
one scientist who used art.
You're saying no scientists. Scientists are very...
But here's the thing, they're not artists. If it was, hey, every scientist or a lot of people have to have someone else come in who is an artist to clear their minds. It's like saying they're multiple people, but their art isn't contributing. It's the science that's contributing. That's maybe, I mean, it may be a different scientist drinks or smokes pot or punches a wall. Like, just because one scientist used music doesn't mean that this art is equal to the science.
There are other scientists that paint.
I'm sure there are. In the infinite world, yes, there are probably. So I
used one example.
But there's probably enough other ones too who smoke pot.
People go fishing. Is fishing non-essential all of a sudden?
Yeah.
What about the people that make fishing poles? So now So now we don't have
society.
So now we don't have fishing poles. We don't have the hooks that make them. The guy that makes the steel to make the hooks.
Correct.
You go on and on the fishing line. Everything that goes into that. The people that make the boats to go fishing.
We're not saying these people can't exist.
So
we're saying,
let's take it one step further and we go into a more socialist society.
No, because we're
more communistic.
We're crossing things from into a pandemic versus every day.
And I think this conversation from now, because we've never had this conversation in modern times.
She has.
And I think it's wrong for the fact that it extends, that this conversation will extend generationally outside of this particular pandemic.
The contribution to society topic.
Yes.
Sure.
And it arose out of the pandemic.
Okay, then if we want to talk about that in a non-pandemic world, then we cannot conflate that when someone says a profession is above another profession, that means that profession doesn't exist. Because it still exists. Because the question is, which one contributes more to society?
And I find value in all of them.
There's value. But there's absolute value. And you can't confuse, and I'm not saying you are, I'm just saying you can't confuse value with contributions to society.
If you move into a communistic world, government, communists and socialists will do exactly this. They put people in roles and say, you're going to do this for the state because that's for the good of society, right? You're going to grow food. You're going to produce shoes. You're a shoemaker. You're going to produce shoes for the state. So nobody has the need for capitalism, right? Because everything's just provided for you. You go to work, you make shoes, you come home, and you get whatever else you need based on the production of everybody else. The state owns the means of production, right?
Okay, so
in that context, which is what the left, more liberal society is always pushing for, let's just let the state do it. The state can run all that. Will the state, based on these types of conversations, will the state say, we're going to have artists produce art? Based on this conversation, no, because they're not important to contribute enough to society. And so that now artists
to another 5 other hand-picked professions.
Right.
So if we say,
so now suddenly the artist does go away.
I'm trying to think of other worthhless professions.
For the record, you just called all artists and their professions worthless. I can't do it. I can't.
I don't know that they're worthless to everyone. I understand why people like art. And what people consider art is very broad. Yes, it was half tongue in cheek, but also I don't care about. I personally don't care about art, right? But I care about music, right? So music, for if you're considering art, but so if we take other professions, that would be if we substitute that profession in place of artist in this list. Artist may go up to the top. So what I'm saying is
based on another set of arbitrary criteria.
Exactly. Well, arbitrary professions that somebody just pulled out of a hat, essentially. Right. She took this. I would have liked to seen that because this was in somewhat a loaded question to me. If you're willing to say one profession has more value to society or contributes more to society than another, you're always going to put the artist at the bottom.
Depending on your perception or experience or
right.
Who you are, because the artist is going to put their value toward the top of that list. Maybe. I mean,
the interesting one for me, honestly, and to kind of shift gears a little tiny bit, but I thought the preacher was interesting.
Preacher, yeah.
I would put preacher at the bottom, towards the bottom, maybe above artist, probably tied.
Yeah, and I can see why you would.
Right, because I think you can still be a Christian, worship God, things like that, without a pastor.
Without a preacher, right.
So that, to me, I mean, granted, there are some people who put that number 1. Which
there were some people in the comments that put it at like 2.
Right.
They said like the farmer, but then preacher next because and it goes into again having this and bringing it out of the moral construct of and the fabric of society and back into the conversation about the government choosing essential versus non-essential.
Government's choosing.
What do you mean? They've already said that preachers are non-essential and they can't preach in a public setting at all
When?
outside of their home.
When?
And every state except for ours.
Well, now we're going back into the pandemic.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
And now
during the time of a pandemic, a pastor should not. There shouldn't be a gathering at church.
That's equally damaging, again, for all the people that rely on their pastors for their mental health and well-being. So if I'm going back to I'm the meat packer.
That pastor can't call that person?
You know what I'm saying, though.
No, I really don't.
The pastor can't call 300 people in his congregation.
Not all 300 people need that.
You don't know.
I do. I don't.
If there's a church of 1,000 and 300 need it,
sure.
There's a capacity to what the pastor can reasonably do.
Facebook Live. It's free. Every pastor can do it. And if they're not great at what they're doing.
It's not the same. Like
it's not the same.
You're putting a lot of your own personal. You're putting your personal anecdotal needs and wants in front of 300.
Aren't you doing the same?
No, I'm trying to abstract all of that and say
no,
I don't care who you are.
They should be able to, so they should gather
if they want to.
What? Why? in the conversation of a pandemic, and I'm saying even probably something more to date, more deadly or serious than the COVID piece. I think the government should be able to say, no, you church of 1,000 cannot meet on Sunday.
Where does it end?
When the pandemic ends. I do agree that's the one sticking point to me is everything, and these IJ lawyers say this, and you've said this multiple times over and over, is in times of quote unquote emergency, laws have been enacted in the good of the people, but then those laws are never repealed.
Right.
And so I do, that's the one thing I do agree, is that in some way, when they say a church should not be able to congregate, there has to be there has to be a black and white end date.
Sure.
And I'm okay with it.
And the next piece is, well, it's not a pandemic, but we're approaching war. And so right now, no newspapers can report anything that we don't approve of because of we need to make sure that we prop up our war support.
I think that would never go through with First Amendment.
It already has.
When?
World War I, World War II.
In 2020.
Vietnam.
True.
The Patriot Act. It's happened over and over and over, and it'll happen again in 2020 that the government will suppress information if it's not happening right now. I mean, we see it happening on Facebook, and I don't know, the government owns Facebook or whatever. I'm not, I don't.
Oh, yeah, they do.
But, I mean, the fact that they just use the pandemic as an excuse to take control away from people versus based on these arbitrary guidelines that really don't have any substantiation, where the government says the artist is not essential, but the farmer is. And when does that end? How does that carry on? And then what if the farmer relies on new music being produced for him or going to concerts? Like, I don't know. It's just...
Farmer doesn't rely on music.
says you.
Okay.
The non-farmer. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to.
My family, they can still plow a field.
I'm trying to take away
music.
all of my perception of who that farmer is. There's millions of farmers, and they all have different lifestyles. Some of them may need to go golfing. Some of them rely on the gym. Some of them rely on all kinds of things.
Can they do their day-to-day job without that stuff?
That's not for you or me to decide.
Can they though?
That's not for you. I can't say yes or no.
Yeah, you can, because they can.
I'm not going to make that claim.
They can farm whatever they're doing without music. It may suck, but they can do it.
And that suck could lead them to a path of depression and suicide.
Well, that person has other issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we just packed it on for no, like...
But no one's outlawing music.
They're outlawing concerts.
So we can outlaw, we'll say for, right, okay, outside of a pandemic, I am saying a scientist is more important than a musician on contributions to society. That doesn't mean the musician dies or can never create music ever again.
I think
it could be here. The person absolutely 1,000%, the musician still provides value. 100% agree. But when you're looking at contributions to society and assuming it's like the guy who created, what was it, the insulin or whatever, who created something but didn't patent it, so he didn't get any money from it. It was a huge thing. Anyway, I'm spacing on it now. But that person contributed more to society than any musician ever. And I understand you won't say it, but I'm not gonna.
And I think that's wrong.
So you would rather have music than this whatever? I can't. Fuck. I could wish.
I would rather that people decide what they need in their life freely and choose their ability.
Unfortunately, you can't say I don't need science. You can't say I don't need a politician. I don't need a farmer.
I need whatever the scientist needs to do well in his job, or I need whatever the farmer needs to do well in his job. Like, can you farm? Like, is it physically possible to farm without music or without stress relievers, without going to the gym or without doing any number of things that the farmer might need to do on a daily basis in order for him to do his job? Like, is that physically possible? Yes.
Boom! Got him!
Is that morally and ethically correct to deny him or her of that basic freedom? No.
No one's denying them.
The rest of the world is. The whole country.
They're not denying music.
They're denying his ability to go to the gym. They're denying his ability to go go golfing, like whatever.
Listen, farmers don't go to the gym. They lift a lot of stuff on their own. They don't need to go to the gym.
You're taking all these anecdotal ideas. Like, I'm trying to make one big broad stroke statement.
Lift a hay bale.
I'm making one big broad statement to try and prove the point, and you're isolating it down into this one simple thing.
Well, you can't make one big broad statement.
But you can, because there's 320 million people all doing different careers. The bootmaker.
Okay, so
the bootmaker might need to go to the gym.
You can, but I can't. You can make this big broad statement saying everybody's equal, we all love each other, blah, blah, blah. I'm saying no. There are professions that contribute more to society. So my big broad statement is wrong, but your big broad statement is right.
Because your big broad statement is isolating down into your anecdotal idea of what each person does and what it means for them to do their job, and say, you don't need to do that, and you don't need to do that. And
I'm not saying anybody doesn't need to do anything.
Yeah, you are.
No, I'm not. The artist can go paint or carve or sculpt or do whatever the heck that person does.
But they can't have an art show to go sell their art and make a living.
You keep crossing over into pandemic time versus not pandemic time.
Because the conversation is happening now in a pandemic.
I understand, but we can't keep crossing back and forth because it confuses the conversation and it makes it 1 point relevant here, 1 point relevant here.
So to clarify, the conversation that has sprung out of the pandemic, I believe, is damaging to the fabric of society outside of a pandemic. So this conversation, I believe, could continue to happen for a generation.
Facts don't care about your feelings.
The truth.
This is one thing, and we're coming up on 33 minutes.
Good. We
I
obviously disagree pretty heavily on this one.
I will say this one thing, and I don't say this as a disparaging comment by any means at all. But usually, you're a very analytical thinker. But you are very emotional,
yes,
on this specific topic,
yes,
which is different. It's a surprise, not a surprise, but it's just unusual.
And you're right, and I recognize that.
Why are you emotional?
Right. So when I was kind of talking about this on Facebook, because I was just pissed the moment I saw it, and I would post you're essential too type of thing. Just to give the artist a little boost, or the people that have been just forcefully stuck at home in their house. Hey man, you are needed in society, whether or not government thinks you are right now or not. You are necessary in my opinion. It doesn't matter who you are or what you do, or if I use your services or not, you are an important person still.
Sure.
And people, and I don't think that's a conversation that's happening, but
maybe.
And people would comment, boy, somebody's feeling non-essential. It's like, fuck you, buddy. I mean, like, and
funny.
And we kind of, I internalized that maybe more than I should have.
Right.
And it
so do
made
you
me really
feel
know
that your position?
And that was the thing is like, I really, and my wife was like, why is this bugging you so much? Like, you're really like, I mean, it was every day I'd wake up and like, I just process this through my head. Like, what the fuck is going on? Mm-hmm. And I did kind of come to this realization that the problem is people were classifying me as non-essential, but I don't feel non-essential because I don't feel non-essential to my kids. I don't feel non-essential to my wife. And the things that I do every day by going to our store and selling our products, which are bath and body products, which depending on the nature of the product is deemed essential by government. We sell soap and hand sanitizer, like, some basic things, body butter. Like, there's things that we sell that are deemed essential, right? And there's things that we sell that are deemed non-essential.
Sure.
Regardless, the things that we sell make money for our family so that I can feed them. That process to me is essential.
Right. I think you are what I've tried to do, and I mentioned to you too, as do you consider yourself, your identity is a bath and body type retailer? Like, that's your identity.
Right.
Because in my opinion I'm a digital marketer, but also too, like, I would rather people see me as a friend, a funny person, somebody that we have these conversations with. Yeah. And like, I don't view my Monday through Friday 8 to 5 as me.
Right.
Even though it takes up the vast majority of my life. I'm in digital marketing. I am one of the first people to say I am not essential to really anything. Fair. In a pandemic world. I mean, I've joked all the time, like, if I could train a monkey to click a couple buttons, it could probably do my job. And so during the time of a pandemic, I'm fine saying, people are saying, like, marketing companies shouldn't run. Like, maybe, sure, fine, whatever. Like, but no, to society staying healthy and alive, like physically alive, there's nothing I do in my profession that makes me essential to someone else. And I think that's what the conversation is. It is, are you essential to yourself? Well, I'm obviously essential to my wife. I'm essential to my kids. I'm obviously essential to you because I'm a pretty big deal. But am I essential to... Oh, where's the...
Hell yeah! Wrong. Sorry. I put a lot of buttons. There we go. I got crazy. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, so I think, no, I lost my train.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. So, like, am I essential to the guy that lives in the other neighborhood because I'm a digital marketer? No.
And I get the logistics behind what you're saying. You're not wrong in that sense.
Right.
Like,
and I think it's okay. Like, I don't think it's I understand where it can be dangerous to be like, well, I'm more important than you.
And that's the other side of things. There was that video that went viral. I was always going to share it with you because it was pertinent to this conversation. But this lady who was a nurse, so a very essential person, was screaming at a guy in his car because he wasn't at home and he was out doing non-essential things. And essentially saying, you're not important to be outside in his car. He was literally out for a joyride to get some fresh air and be out of his house. Mm-hmm. And this lady was just shaming him and condemning him for his actions.
Right. I think that lady has some issues.
and that's been happening more and more in the conversation. They're shaming people. Oh, you shouldn't be outside because you don't need shoes. It's like, I need a new pair of sandals. It's like, well, do I need a new pair of sandals? No.
Right.
Do a new pair of sandals make my life more comfortable in this hot summer weather and make me enjoy my day a little bit more when I'm outside? Yeah, they do.
You shouldn't be outside.
Like, is it essential that I need
more pajama pants?
No, it's not essential that I get new sandals, but it's something that helps me get through my day better, easier, makes me feel good because I bought a new pair of shoes. Like,
I get it, but I think a lot of us are attached to material things.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, if a pair of shoes is the only thing that makes you happy, there's probably another conversation that you need to have with your pastor over Facebook Live or whatever. Facebook
I get it.
You know what? You know what's always going to be essential though? Brewers,
booze.
Beer,
I don't disagree.
Alcohol, 100%. Liquor stores. It was just kind of crazy. Like liquor stores never shut down.
They did in Brookings.
Really?
They shut down the municipal liquor store in Brookings for like 3 or 4 weeks. They eventually opened it back up.
Yeah. They've all offered, like I know one that has like a drive-through window. So they actually just said like, we're only going through the drive-through, which is a pretty cool idea. And then the other big one that I've usually go to, they've always done, like if you call ahead, they'll bring it out to your car.
Sure. Which
is, if you don't want to come in, it just gives you that other alternative, which I think is a great thing to do.
But. And so to reiterate, I'm not saying that life should have, even in the context of a pandemic, extend as normal as possible without, making changes. Like the artist can go home and work from home and do online art shows and galleries. Like these things can still change. Mm-hmm. The problem that I have is where the government saying that you can't go outside. Like this kind of came up in Sioux Falls when they wanted to do the stay-at-home order. I know we're running long on time, but
I try to end these episodes.
I know you were almost there too. All right, just real quick.
Go, hurry.
They had they talked about the stay-at-home order, and I went up to the podium and I asked them. I was like, "Well, we don't know what this means because the classification of essentialism is poor. They're using the federal guidelines, but it was a poor classification to begin with. So our business is classified under the federal guidelines as an essential business because of a handful of products that we sell. So great. If my printer runs out of ink, can I, as in the stay-at-home order, can I go to Staples and go get a new printer ink? Yes, that would be considered an essential task to run my essential business, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Now, the home artist who is working from home and doing all the stay-at-home orders, in order for them to operate and run their business, if they need ink, can they go to the store? But they're not essential. See how it brings in all of these really complex things that government is not equipped or manageable to offer or bring about or whatever.
I think again, we keep tying back to older episodes, which I think is good, but like the government's not probably the right. Entity to make these massive decisions, especially, and I'm not even talking about who's essential, non-essential, what can be open, what cannot, but like, is this a pandemic?
Right.
Like, because they're wrong. Like, they're always wrong. Like, it's not wrong, Josh.
Okay, here we go.
This beer's not wrong. It's pretty good. Pretty good.
Dude, so this Lucky Bucket Brewing Company, the Jug Thumper Brown Ale is what we got. Rich barley flavor, 5.5 alcohol by volume. I thought it was fantastic.
It was pretty good.
I thought it was fantastic.
Okay.
I was not on board.
So give me a number.
4.5.
Woo!
I will drink this again. Wow. I will buy a 6-pack and I will drink this again.
I was gonna go 3.5, but since you talked me into a 4, it's a good beer.
I really liked it. I thought it was really good.
Brown ales are good. We've got a local company that does a real good brown ale. Newcastle does a brown ale. They haven't gotten any credit that they deserve because they have a good brown ale as well. This one though has good flavor. It's a great beer. So.
I liked it a lot, a whole lot.
Yeah, it's a good beer. So how about we try this out? Let's end this episode.
All right. So what do we got to do now?
BeerBaseballTyranny.com.
Yes.
Check us out there. Search for us anywhere that you listen to podcasts. If you don't want to see our beautiful faces, you can hear our beautiful voices. Anywhere you find podcasts, so anything you do. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. We have a pretty Facebook page where we share some things. And we've got a little issue with our merch, but we're going to get that figured out here pretty quick. A lot of it's COVID related, actually, just because
shipping times and
things.
Right. Because it's not, you don't need a shirt.
Right. So, hey guys, thanks for watching.
Yeah,
thanks for listening. And we'll check